Hello everyone, welcome to the Project Veritas headquarters in the infamous Wall of Shame, new and improved, where journalists' reputations go to die, where journalists have to print retractions and corrections in articles questioning my journalism ethics. Today's Retracto goes to New York Magazine, the byline Ankush Khardori, former federal prosecutor, emphasis on former federal prosecutor and journalist. Ankush Khardori reported that I referred to myself as being, quote, incarcerated when the FBI visited my house. I was referring to New Orleans. He selectively edited that out to make me look like an imbecile. Now he looks like an imbecile because he printed a correction. Cue the Retracto theme song. So in this New York Magazine headline, which reads, quote, what James O'Keefe won't say, he claims he's being railroaded over the diary, but he won't answer questions to end the speculation. In the article, Ankush Khardori writes, O'Keefe told me he had been incarcerated. And that's in quotes, by the way. And when I asked O'Keefe about this claim, O'Keefe said he was referring to the fact that he had been restrained while his home was being raided last November. That sounds like something an imbecile would say, right? Adult. A nimwit.
Numbskull.
Ignorant.
I haven't heard that word in 25 years. So that's what Ankush wrote. Unfortunately for him, that wasn't actually factually correct. I did not refer to the execution of a search warrant and the feds putting me in handcuffs for just a little while as my incarceration. We actually recorded the interview with Ankush. You can see what I said. And I mentioned my experience in Louisiana. Let's roll that tape.
You don't know what it's like to be incarcerated. You don't know what it's like to be shackled. You don't know what it's like to be falsely accused like I was in Louisiana and have a judge. And I'm indignant for a reason, because we're standing for journalistic rights everywhere. And I'm answering your question. It's not the answer that you like. You want me to...
Incarcerated?
I was in shackles, federal shackles on my ankles before I was arraigned. Do you understand? Parish prison in New Orleans.
Clearly, I mentioned the word Louisiana, and the judge in that case, there's pictures of me in the orange Timothy McVeigh jumpsuit. You can see the pictures right here. They actually put me in shackles. They put me in a federal holding cell, processed me, and put me in a parish prison, St. Bernard's Parish Prison in New Orleans, Louisiana, before I was arraigned. Now, if you were an actual journalist and not a former federal prosecutor, you would have known this fact. So Ankush Khardori was forced to print a big, fat, juicy retraction in this article, and now it reads, quote, O'Keefe told me that he had been incarcerated. When I asked him about this claim, he said, well, I guess he has a typo in his article as well. He said. That's like the new 80s band, right? Isn't there another band where the word repeats twice? Duran Duran. He said that he was referring to when he was arrested in 2010 with 3 other men after they went into New Orleans' office of Senator Mary Landrieu. So he corrected it, now clearly referring to the incident in New Orleans. O'Keefe and others subsequently pleaded guilty to 1 count of entering a federal building under false pretenses. He edited out the part where Jim Letton resigned in disgrace for his U.S. attorneys, blogging anonymously about me, the defendant they were prosecuting. A big prosecutorial no-no. But of course, a former, I'm putting that in quotes, a former federal prosecutor would not think it's interesting that U.S. attorneys resigned in disgrace for unethical misconduct, now would they? You can see the collision between journalism and being a former federal prosecutor. The article comes out April 18th, 2022. That's a few weeks ago on the Intelligencer section of New York Magazine. On April 19th, the next day, our indefatigable legal team sends an email to the editor of New York Magazine, one Jebediah Reed. Especially since Elon has purchased Twitter, I think it's important to foster the free exchange of ideas. At Jebediah Reed, there's the editor. We sent Jebediah a note saying, quote, Dear Mr. Reed, we recently invited one of your writers, Mr. Ankush Khardori, to engage in a discussion, unbiased questions. The discussion became confrontational. Ironically, Mr. Khardori claims Mr. O'Keefe was demonstrably unreliable in the interview and proceeds to falsely claim that when Mr. O'Keefe told Mr. Khardori that, quote, he had been incarcerated, O'Keefe said he was referring to the fact that he'd been restrained while someone was being raided. As you can see from the attached clip, that's the clip that I showed you, this is either purposely false or embarrassingly sloppy on Mr. Khardori's behalf. I wonder if he's this sloppy in his trials when he's prosecuting. The interaction in question makes it clear Mr. O'Keefe was referring to his 2010 incarceration at the hands of federal authorities in Louisiana. Okay, that's the letter we sent to New York Magazine. This was their response one day later on April 20th at almost 4:20. It was 4:20, 4:44. So we don't know the mental state of the people that were writing, but it's safe to say that maybe they had smoked the ganj.
Yeah, does that cause brain damage? No, all right.
From either Elisa Cohen at Vox Media, Wednesday, the next day, right around 4:20 on 4:20, Dear Mr. Sullivan, and maybe this is why this is worded so ridiculously. This is like a tautological argument here. Despite the bold insults leveled against the reporter in your letter, and then selectively editing the recording, there's the projection, quote, as an organization that considers integrity in its reporting, we have nonetheless considered its content. However, and this is like where the 420 thing comes in. However, other than a clarification regarding the nature of Mr. O'Keefe's reference to his incarceration, which has already been issued, our team has determined no further action is warranted. You're burying the lead. Other than us getting this material fact completely wrong, we've done nothing wrong.
No, all right.
That makes no sense. You have done something wrong, you've admitted it, and you're almost engaged in a degree of propaganda here and tautology by saying that you've already issued it. You would not have issued this correction, but not for the letter you received the day prior from our legal team demanding that you issue it. Otherwise, maybe we might sue you. But you're writing in this paragraph, we've already issued the retraction. Well, clearly you have. Thanks to us, you shouldn't have made it in the first place. Alyssa goes on to say in her letter, Mr. Khardori indeed came to the meeting with an open mind and ultimately did publish a fair and accurate report. Well, in the previous sentence, you admitted to getting something wrong, so how was this report accurate? This is, of course, an example of Orwell's doublethink, which is pretty ironic for an editor, an associate general counsel, and a former federal prosecutor. All of this could have been avoided, Elisa Cohen, Ankush Khardori. All of this could have been avoided if you just stuck to the facts, right? If you just didn't do the thing you accuse me of doing, if you didn't project onto me who you are, if you didn't engage in that Freudian sense of projection, if you weren't afraid of your own shadow. And that's really the truth. People don't like us because we hold a mirror up to you and you don't like what it is that you see. But rather than attack us, maybe you should be on the same side as us because I forgot. You're a former federal prosecutor. Maybe you should be going to like the rallies and protests, like with the Abercrombie and Snitch guys. I think we actually have an image of you at that rally. Oh, here it is. There you are, right? With the bulge in your pocket, like all the other guys, right? Why don't you just go prosecute journalists rather than defend them? Because that's really why you're put on this earth. And now you will live in shame forever on our beautiful wall of shame, running out of space. We're going to start hanging these things from the ceiling like TGI Fridays. I'll talk to my facilities guy about that. All this can be avoided if you just stuck to the facts. All right? So, good day, sir.